Hey guys, welcome to the CS Classroom. What we're going to do today is we're going to learn how to make a gradebook application using a tree table or just a tree view, which is this right here. We're going to do this in parts. We're going to start by just displaying this data, talking about how to insert subjects. I guess we already have bio. And then also add data to individual subjects. Like so. So we're going to progress in parts. Again, as I said, we're going to start with the view, and then we're going to get into how to insert subjects, insert individual entries, and then also delete entries where necessary. So let's go ahead and get started. What we've already got right here is we have some example data, excluding geography. We can just actually go delete that for now. So this is the initial data that we're going to start out with that will be displayed in this tree table or this tree view right here. So we have bio. So we have headings right here. So this is going to be one heading for biology, and this is going to be one heading for chemistry right here. And both biology and chemistry are going to be what we call parent nodes, because these have arrows that we can expand at will. Now, if you look at the structure right here, this data array. Now, again, this array is holding all the data that will be displayed in the table. You can see that our parents right here have a code, bio, and then the name, and they have no other entries in them, especially the first entry. Now, our children for each of these subjects, so I mean these values right here, have the code of their parent right here. They have some code of their own, some identifying code of their own. The name or the text that's actually going to be displayed in the tree view, and then any other associated data, which in this case is just grades for quiz 1, homework 1, quiz 2, etc. So our parent, the first element is going to be blank, but in children, the first element is going to correspond to the code of the parents. And the codes are kind of how all of these different pieces of data are linked together. Now I should emphasize again, this data array is going to be a 2D array. So we've got one outer array, and then all of the arrays for our data inside the view is right here. So bio, first parent, chem, second parent, and then after each parent are their respective children with the associated data. So that's the first piece of data that we're going to have in order to display a table, and that's what's going to be manipulated in order for us to be able to add and delete data later on. Now, the second piece of data we're going to have is our headings. So there are ways to add headings, but it gets a little complex. I mean, for now, we're just going to have quiz 1, homework 1, and quiz 2. So we're just going to have 3 different columns in our tree table. So rows consist of our parents and our children, and then we basically have columns right here with the pieces of data that we want to store for each child entry, like Adrian, Liam, or Celia. And that's just in the form of a one-dimensional array. So if you were to get started creating your own tree view, this is the format in which your data would need to be. One array right here with all of the data necessary to display parents and children, and another one for headings. This being a 2D array and this being a 1D array. Now, what we're going to do once we have this data right here is, first of all, I'm actually going to just overall right here. So I mean, we obviously start out import PySimpleGUI as SG, and I'm going to specify that I want everything to be in a certain font just so it's easier to see. So I'm going to say set options font equals Arial bold 14. That means we have a nice big font that is easy to see right here. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we have our data right here, which I just kind of put in here before I start this tutorial. Now, all of that actually needs to go into a tree data object. So this is actually a weird sort of object in PySimpleGUI that isn't really well documented at all, but we need to basically insert all of the data from our data array into this object. Well, we need to create this object first, like so, and then we're going to read this data in here. Now, the way that we're going to do that is we're actually going to write a function in order for us to generate basically we're going to write a function insert this data in here, and then to return tree data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do def generate tree data object. Now again, this tree data object is important because when we actually create our tree view, this tree data object is going to be our input, which will contain all of this data. So that's why we're creating it. So we're going to create a function called generate tree data object. We're going to say tree data. We're going to move this right in here. So we're going to put this right here. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say for row in data. And this data parameter is going to correspond to this array right up here. Or really, actually, this is, we don't even really need a parameter to an extent, because we're just going to utilize this as a global variable in our program. Now, that may or may not be the best programming decision, but it's kind of easy to follow. So this data right here, this data variable is going to correspond to this. So we're going to say for row in data, tree data dot insert. Row 0, row 1, row 2, row 3, and row 4. And these are actually, we're not going to do row 4. Let me backspace. We're going to do row 3, followed by a colon. Now, row 0 is going to correspond to this right here. Row 1 is going to correspond to this right here. Row 2 is going to correspond to the name of our actual entry. So we've got parent or child, basically. We have our code for our entry. And then we have the actual name that's going to be displayed in the table. And then right here we have 3 colon, because we're going to put index 3, but also all the data after that. So in this case, it'd be nothing, but here, this would be the position 3. This would be the data index 3. And then because we have the colon, we're going to include not only this, but this and this as well. So all of the data. So we're basically going to insert, for each of these rows right here, we're going to insert the data into our tree data object, which is again a weird, like sort of PySimpleGUI only object. And then we're going to return tree data. And we're going to use this later on in order for us to be able to take this data and then dynamically just generate a tree data object from it. Now, once we've done that, we can go ahead and we're going to actually just, like I said, we're just going to try to display this first of all. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to just create a layout. So I'm going to say layout. Remember, that's a 2D array. And if we're just displaying this without all of this other input, right now we're just going to have sg.tree. That's going to be the type of element. Okay. And that's going to be our only element, and we're just going to specify a bunch of parameters. So we're going to have data equals generate tree data object. Just taking our it's not global yet, but it's just a kind of a variable we're using throughout our file. We're going to generate a tree data object from that, and that's going to be set equal to data for the tree. We're going to have headings equals our headings array that we've already specified right here. We're going to have auto size columns equals true, which allows the columns to automatically be resized in order for all the data to fit in there. We're going to have select mode equals sg.table select mode extended. We're going to have number of rows equals 10, which is number of rows, the maximum number of rows that can be displayed without scrolling down. Column 0 width, so the width of the first column. Although I don't think we actually need this at the moment. We're just going to remove this. Key, which is super important, tree. Show expanded. That's going to equal true, and that means is that whenever you open up the application, rather than it being not expanded, it will show as being expanded, so we can see not only the parents, but all of the child rows in here. Enable events equals true, which enables click events, enables us to like select events like that, and then do things based on these types of events. Expand x equals true, and expand y equals true. This allows us, what this is basically saying is that the tree will expand in the X and Y direction to fill all available space, corresponding to 10 rows in this case. So expand X and Y equals true. And those are all the parameters we're going to have. Now that we have created our basic tree, we're going to say window equals sg.window. We're going to give it a title of gradebook. Our layout's going to go in there. We're going to say size equals 600 by 600, just because I found that it's kind of a nice size for not just the view, but for all this other stuff to fit in. And then resizable equals true, which allows us to sort of resize the window as we would want, sort of like that. Okay, so now that we've done that, what I want to do is I just want to go ahead and display this, nothing fancy. We're just going to have while true, event values equals window.read. If event equals sg.closed, and this is just very like boilerplate code, right? Just allow us to kind of just get the values that have been entered into the application and then allow us to just close the app, right? So break. And for now, that's all we actually really need. Any events we have subsequently will correspond to these forms, but right now we just want to display this, or display just this part right here. So window.close. And okay, let's go ahead and give this a try. I'm going to close this demo. It's actually demo 2. I'm going to close that right here. We're going to try to open this and troubleshoot any errors that we have. Okay, so we've immediately got an error right here. There is no set option method. Oh, it's got to be set option. So line 3 right up here, let's add an S right there. Okay, let's give another try. Okay, right here, and it's got an unexpected keyword argument resizable. So right here, that should not be resizable, but rather it shouldn't have an E, it should just have an A. I guess my spelling's terrible. Okay, cool. Let's try it again. Okay, and right here we've got a we basically got what we wanted. I guess right here I specified 10 rows, but because of the expand X and expand Y, like I haven't tested this out, but I assume that this fills up the whole space just by displaying only those 10 rows. But anyways, for now, that's not a problem. We don't really care about that. Once we add the other forms in, those will fill up the rest of the space so that everything will only take up the 600 by 600 pixels that we specified right here. So in terms of spacing and positioning, there's really nothing to worry about. So this first part works. I'm going to go ahead and close that, and then I'm going to open up our demo app, which is really just the finished app. And I like having this here so you guys can kind of see what I'm working on as I'm working on it. I'll resize it a bit just so we can see it. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to be able to add a subject to our table right here. Okay, now the way that we're going to do that is we're actually going to have to work. Basically, we're going to edit this data array using a function, and then we're going to update the data in the tree data object. And before we can do any of that, we're going to have to create these form elements in order for us to actually be able to like type in data and then add it in here. So let's go ahead and let's just start with some of the layout stuff. So right underneath our tree, we're just going to have sg.text. Well, we're going to have, okay, let me just close that right there. So that's going to be in one array. So let's put a comma right there. I'm just going to have sg.text. Add subject. So we've got that right there. That's corresponding to this. Then we're going to have two form fields. And I'm actually going to copy paste those because it's pretty trivial and I don't really think that should be the focus right here. So I'm going to copy one and I'll kind of explain how it works, and then I'll just use it to make the other. So we've got this right here. Below that, we're going to have this. So that's going to be in another array. So it's going to be called, I'm going to kind of close this right here so it's easier to see everything, or just, I'll put that right there. Now, so right here we have sg.text subject. So we have a label, and then we also have the input next to it. So there's no data in the input, enable events equals true. It's going to have a key of subject code, which is going to be useful later on when we want to actually insert that data. Font justification equals right for positioning. Now, inside this array, so it's on the same line, we're also going to have subject name. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this right here. We'll do that. We're going to change this so you have subject name. And we're going to change the key right here to subject name. And that's pretty much it. We want to just close up this array right here. I'll just put this down here to make it clear that these are all in the same row. Okay, so what we would type in right here basically is we would type in the code. So right here we had a code like bio and chem. So I'm just going to type in geo and then geography right in here. So that's going to correspond to the subject code and the subject name. So these two inputs right here. So you have both of those inputs. We're also going to have an insert subject button. So we're going to do, we're basically going to do sg.button on the subsequent row. And we will have insert subject. Okay, cool. So now once we've got that, we're going to actually have to write a function. We're going to go into our event loop first. And we want to get the data from these fields. Okay, so we're going to say elif right down here, event equals insert subject, corresponding to this right here. So elif event equals insert subject. We're actually going to call, well, first of all, we're going to get our tree element. So we're getting our tree element from window. So we're going to say window tree. Okay. Then we're going to say, we're going to get new subject list equals insert subject. And we're going to have some parameters in here. What I want to make clear is before we do this, we're going to have to create a function called insert subject that actually handles inserting that subject. And that's going to take parameters of subject, subject code, subject name, and then our tree element. So it means right in here for insert subject, we're going to have, we'll talk about like what this new subject list is later, but we're going to have insert subject, and then we're going to have values, subject code, subject name, which are just corresponding to these inputs right here. So these two right here, subject code, subject name, and then our tree element, which is just corresponding to this element right here. So we're going to have that. And let's go ahead and write that function, and then we can come back down here and finish what we're doing. So basically what we're doing in our insert subject function right here is we're going to get the subject code. The user is going to type in geo or geography. And we're basically going to create one of these types of arrays, one of these parent nodes, and insert it into this data array at the end right here. So the way that we do that is we just say data.append, which is referring to this data array right up here. And then just create a new array that looks exactly like a parent node array. Subject code, subject name, or yeah, we're gonna have subject name right there. And then remember it's a parent, so there's no real data, so just 3 blank spots to kind of fill in the space right there. So once we've done that, we're going to do tree data equals generate tree data object, because we basically edited this array right here. And so we want to take this new edited array, we want to generate a tree data object from it, because that's what the tree view element uses. And then we're going to do tree element dot update tree data. And that's updating the data in this tree element in this right here with our new subject. And what we also want to do is we're going to do subject list equals extract subjects. Now, this may not make any sense right now, but what we want to do is when we add this new subject, later on, we're actually going to insert like new values or new children. And when we insert a new child, we want to be able to select the subject. So basically, in order for us, so if we just insert this right here, this appears right here. So we want to update our subject list, which is just actually this array right up here. Well, actually, that's not an array. So actually what we need to do is we need to update our subject list. So what we're actually going to need and what we're going to have to deal with is a list that's used to update this. So probably what I'm going to do for now actually is I'm just going to create a blank method, and then we'll kind of come back to this, okay? Because we haven't actually created this element yet, but that's what that's going to do. That's going to help us update this list right here with the new elements that we've added, or the new subjects, or the new parents that we've added. So I'm just going to create this function right here, and it's not going to do anything for right now. It's just really not going to matter, but we will come back to it in a moment. So that's basically what's going on right there. So I'm going to do return subject list, and I mean, that's really not going to do anything right now. So this is just kind of building up to updating this right here. But in order for us to just be able to insert a subject, this is all we really need right now. So let's just stop right here. And I want to just be able to see whether this part is generated and whether we can add a subject. So let's exit out of our demo, and let's just run this and just do some troubleshooting and just see what happens. Let's see. Okay, cool. So we'll go back to the terminal right here. I'm just going to clear this just so you can see everything that's going on. And then let's go ahead and, okay. So first error right here, list indices. Okay, I'm probably forgetting a comma right here. Okay, so right here I need a comma. Whenever you have this message, that means something's wrong with your layout. Probably you're missing a comma. Save that. Okay, cool. We've got this right here. Let's see what inevitably goes wrong. Geography. Okay. So it says key error subject name. So right here, I forgot so actually right down here, forgot a dash that corresponds to our key right up here. Let's go ahead and fix that and run it again. Cool. Okay, so you got that right there. Let's just go ahead and give another try. Again, these things take a while to get right. So, all right, it says generate tree data object takes 0 positional arguments, but 1 was given. So I guess right here I did tree data and I gave it a parameter when in reality our function up here has no parameters. So, okay, I guess I don't need that, so I can just backspace this right here. Remember, like, all of this code is online on in the GitHub repository that's linked. So, like, if you have just gone through a part of this and you get some errors, you can see the completed and corrected code on GitHub. Let's run that again. Okay, geography. Okay, cool, and that works. Now we can't see the arrow yet because we don't have any children, which we're going to go ahead and add in the next part. Okay, I'm going to open up the demo and we're just going to keep working on this. So cool. We're going to resize this right here. And let's go back to our example right here. And now we're just going to work on kind of the heavy duty stuff, which is inserting a new child. So in order to do that, we're going to have to update our layout, obviously, with a bunch of different stuff. It's kind of a bit tedious. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy paste some of this from the demo. The first thing we're going to need is our combo, right? Which I actually do want to explain. So I'm just going to go ahead and just copy this right here. Part of the reason I'm doing this again is because this is like not what the focus of this particular tutorial is. But basically we have subject right here and we have a combo element, which is a dropdown in PySimpleGUI. What we actually want to do right here is we are going to use subject list. Now, this subject list is an array that we're going to generate using a function. And we're going to write that function right now. So basically what the subject list is going to be, it's going to be an array of the codes that correspond to each subject or parent. And to generate this, we're going to write a function up here called def. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of exit that. So we're going to say def. Well, I had extract subjects right here, which is actually what we want. So maybe rather than right here, we'll just go ahead and fill this in right here. So we're going to say extract subjects. We're going to create a new array. And yeah, so I thought I needed to create a new one, but this extract subject is going to be what we use right here, but also what we're going to use to generate this subject list right here. And partly because this is below the layout, I'm going to take this and I'm going to move this right up here. So I'm going to put this right up here. We're going to say def extract subject. We're going to create a new array called subjects. We're going to say for I in range len data, referring to this data array right up here. So we're going to go through every element in the data array. And we're going to say if data I 0 equals then subjects dot append data I 1. So what this is saying is we're going to go through every element in this array, right? And if the first element in the subarray is blank, then we're going to add the next element, which is going to be the subject code. So we're doing this because only parents are going to have an empty string at position 0 in their array. And if that's true, we're going to add what's at position 1, which would be bio or chem in this case. So as a result, we'll be able to add all of the relevant subject codes to our subjects array. So we're going to say, yeah, we've got that right there. And then once we've gone through that process, we're just going to return subjects. And then for our subjects that are going to go in here, and then eventually actually are going to be used in this particular function, but just to get subject lists right here, to display our available subjects or parent nodes right here, we're going to say subject list equals extract subject and then data. Or if we want, again, we're using this as a global variable. So really, instead of even having that input, we can just say data, and then this will refer to this right up here. Now, normally I wouldn't recommend doing that. I would recommend really kind of compartmentalizing and isolating all of your functions. But I think for simplicity, just for explaining how this works, this is probably better. So we've got extract subjects. Actually, maybe I want to call this extract subjects because we've got more of them. And that's generating our subject list, which is this data right here. So in our combo, in our dropdown, we've got subject list as our first parameter because that's going to be what's actually going to go in. And we have default value equals subject list 0. This is basically saying that the first subject or the first parent node is going to be what we see when we haven't dropped down. So that's why bio is here first. We have a key of subject, and then enable events equals true, read only equals false. We can kind of manipulate it. Although actually, I think I want to make read only equals true because I don't really want the user to be able to manipulate these codes. So we're going to do that actually. And that's kind of our dropdown. Now the rest of these are just, labels and text inputs. So for quiz 1, assignment 1, and quiz 2 for each of our child nodes or each particular student, right? Again, I'm going to go ahead and copy paste those just for brevity. So we've got all of these right here. Let's go in right here. So underneath this combo, we're just going to go ahead and we're just going to say we've got a name label. Then we have an input with key name, which is going to be this one. We've got quiz 1 with our input for quiz 1, which is going to be this one right here. We have our input for assignment 1, which is going to be this one right here. And we've got our input for quiz 2, which is going to be this one right here. And now we want to create our insert and delete buttons. I think first off, we'll just create our insert button because that's what we're focusing on at this stage. So, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and just like kind of fix the tabbing here just so we don't run into any issues. I'm just going to say shift tab. Okay, cool. Got our tabs aligned. We need to create this button right here, which is our insert button. It's pretty easy. So we're just going to say sg.button and then insert. And that's kind of created our layout right here for just for inserting stuff. What I want to go do now is, first of all, I'm going to fix that. What this is doing is, again, we're using our extract subjects function right here to update our list right here whenever we insert a new subject. So this function right here, this helps us when we insert stuff right here, update this list. So I just wanted to fix that right there. But also, in order for us to actually insert a new child element or a new member, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to do enter. I'm going to do elif equal elif event equals insert. And then I'm going to do tree element. Again, we're getting the whatever the current tree element with its current state is each time. So I'm getting the tree element. And then I'm doing insert record, which is a function that I haven't created yet. And I'm going to create that right up here. So I'm going to say def insert record. And insert record is going to have a few inputs. It's going to have subject, which is going to be represented by the subject code. So I guess we'll call it subject code. A name, scores. So the name of the person, so that's going to be this right here. Scores, which is going to be an array with all of their scores. And then, of course, the tree element, so we can go ahead and update that. And I'm not going to write that function yet, but right here I'm going to insert values subject, values name. And remember, this value subject is coming from our combo element right up here. So basically, what we're going to have right here for value subject is whatever we selected right here. Okay. So we're going to have values name. Okay. Then we're going to have values quiz1. So these are inside this array that's going to be our input right here for scores. We're going to have an array with all of the values that have been entered right here. So quiz1, assign1, and quiz2. So I'm just going to go ahead and just try to do this as quickly as possible right here. Because this stuff, okay, we actually got to make sure we get that right. Assign1. And we'll have quiz values. I'm probably just going to actually just push the enter button right here just so it's kind of clear. Then we're going to have values quiz2. Again, if this is kind of difficult to see, you can kind of look at the code on GitHub and match that up right here. I think that would be a lot easier to understand because there is a lot going on here. So tree element right there. So those are all our inputs that match up to this function right up here. Or sorry, insert record right up here. Subject code, which is value subject. Values name, which is matching up to the name of the person. And then an array with all of their scores taken from these inputs right here, followed by the tree element itself, which we specified right here. So now we have all these values. What we're going to do is we're going to actually just create an array, or we're just going to create an individual array that contains that information. And we're going to insert it into this data array right here. But we got to do this a kind of a special way, just because of the way that this array is set up with its parents and its children. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to say for I. So we're just going to iterate through for I in range len data. We're going to iterate through the array. We're going to say if data I, 0 equals a blank string, and data I1 equals subject. Well, actually, we'll say subject code. Then what we're going to do is basically we're looking for each subject. And then once we get to each subject, we want to iterate through to the end of the children. So we're iterating through the array. We're seeing whether we have a parent element. And once we do that, we're going to say j equals I plus 1. So I'm actually going to just copy this right down here just for a second to show you how this works. So what we're basically doing is we're going to this array element using this line. And once we get here, we're creating a new variable called j equals I plus 1, which in our array would move us down right here to the element just below the parent. Now, once we've done that, we're going to say while j is less than len data. So this prevents us from moving beyond the end of the array as a whole. And data j 0, meaning this element right here equals data I 1. Now in this case, I is still stuck at our parent element and j is moving beyond that. So while this element right here equals the parent, so whatever's at position 1 in our parent node. So while we have that going on, we're going to do j plus or equals 1. So this means what this is effectively going to do is allow us to, while we have anything that fits the profile of an element that matches the parent, we're going to keep iterating downwards till we get to the end. And once we've done that, we're going to go ahead and do data.insert. Or rather, we're going to do, we're going to do data.insert. And normally we do append. But basically what's going to happen is we're going to get to like index 2, index 3, index 4. And then with j plus or equals 1, we're going to get to index 5. Okay? Which is theoretically right here, but we're going to use insert to change that. Push the next parent down and insert our new child. So we're going to insert it at that particular element, which is what the insert function does. So in this case, we would get to j would get to 5, and at index 5 we would have j, and then our array. So we'd have subject, which represents, so we'd have subject code, name, and we're just going to simplify this. We're going to do name 02. So we're just taking the first 3 letters of whatever name the person entered. So if they entered Adrian, we're just going to have ADR. We're going to have name, so the actual name of that person, scores 0, scores 1, and scores 2. Inserting all the data. So basically what we're doing is we're going to the parent, we're iterating down to the end of all the children, and then we're appending an array with all of our data that matches the children. So it's kind of complex, but that is actually the only way to do it. There's no simpler way to do this. Then we're going to do our typical tree data equals generate tree data object. So we're generating, we've altered our data array. We're going to generate our tree data object using that new data that we have. And we're going to say we're going to update our tree element. We're going to do tree element dot update with our new tree data. And that's actually pretty much it for this. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. So we've got this insert record function right here. We've called it right here with all of our parameters. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of backspace that up. I mean, you can kind of see everything that's in there. We've gone over that. And using that, we should be able to insert whatever elements you want to insert. So let's go ahead and close up our demo. And let's run this and see what errors we run into. Okay, so far that looks good. So I want to select chemistry. I'm going to say John 31, 32, like something's bound to go wrong here, and insert. Okay, it says generate tree data object takes 0 positional arguments, and that's going to be on line 86. So let's go to line 86 right here. And okay, that's a mistake. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and run it again. Okay, and John 33, we'll just say bio 34, 51, insert. Okay, and that works right there. What I also want to do is I want to try inserting a new subject and see whether it updates in here. Cool. All right, insert subject. Okay, so we got a problem right there. It says extract subjects take 0 positional arguments, but one was given, line 65. Let's go up to 65. Okay, so right here, we don't need to input this data. I actually had it like that when I previously wrote this code, so that's probably why, but whatever. Let's just run it again. And right now, I just want to test whether I can update this menu right here using whatever subjects I've added. We've got geo, geography. Okay, so we added geography right there. Okay, that didn't really update right there. So let's go ahead and let's see what may have happened right here. So we've got subject list equals extract subjects. So right here we returned our subjects. Okay. So we actually returned our subject list right here, but what we need to do down here when you insert a subject is we also need to update this combo element right here. So we're going to do that really quick we're going to do window subject dot update. We're going to do value equals new subject list 0, and that's just to set the default value. We're going to do values equals new subject list. So remember in our insert subject function in this right here, we actually returned we generated our subject list to go in here and we returned it. So now we're actually going to update our combo element on this line of code right here. Window subject, where this key corresponds to the combo element right here. We're going to get started. One thing I also want to do is I have data up here already, and I copied it just to show you guys. So I'm going to delete that just so that doesn't create any issues. I don't think it would, but anyways, just in case. We're going to save that. Let's exit out. Let's run that again. Okay. So geography, insert subject. Okay, now it updates here. So I want to select geography. I want to add someone to it. I'm just going to add myself. Obviously, I got a 99, a 99, and a 99. Insert, and there we go. Perfect. Okay. So now that we've done that, the last step is to be able to click on elements and then just delete them. So I'm going to go ahead and open up our demo again. Let's do that. And what I want right here is I want to be able to click this delete button and then to select something and then just delete it like that. So what I'm going to do is I've already created right here in our code, I'm going to X out of this. In our layout right here, I'm going to create a delete button on the same row as the insert button. So I'm going to say sg.button delete. And I'm going to go down here where all of our events are in our event loop, and I'm going to create a new event. I'm just going to say elif event equals delete. Then what we're going to do is we're again going to get our tree element, which I'll just put right here. And we're going to use a function called delete record, which I haven't created yet. So we'll say delete record selected row code and then tree element. Now, what the selected row code is going to be is that's going to be an element which we're actually going to specify outside of the event loop as an empty string. We basically want to get the code that is selected when we click on one of these elements right here. Okay, And I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but basically the short version is that in order for us to get the code, meaning to get these values for what is actually like specified, is we need to capture our tree. We need to capture our tree event. So we're going to say elif event equals tree. That's coming directly from our tree element right here. Then what we can do is we can say selected row code equals values tree. And what that's basically doing is that's getting these codes right here. So so basically what's an element 1? So bio or other chem or whatever it is that is specific to any of the rows. And like, so for example, if we click on Liam right here, we're going to get Leah bio. So whatever we click on, that gives us the code that's unique to that particular child node or parent node, or just row in general. So that's what this does right here. So once we have that, we store it outside the event loop, and we can use it right down here. So we have a function we haven't written yet called delete record, selected row code, and then tree element. Now we're going to go ahead and write a function called def delete record, which is going to take those inputs. So we're going to have selected row code, tree element, and then what we can do is we're going to say for row in data. So again, we're just referring to our data up here. If selected row code equals rows 1. So basically, if whatever we've selected equals the code for that particular row, data.remove that row. So we're just going to remove that row from the array. And then we're going to have our typical, so we basically altered the data array, which is like basically where all of our information is held. And we're going to update our tree data object, and then we're going to generate a new tree data object, and then update our tree element with that tree data object. So that's how that works. Let's go ahead and let's give it a try. Okay, so we got this right here. Got some data. Let's go ahead and let's see what we can do. So we're going to delete that. Okay, that goes. Let's try deleting. So actually, one of the things that I haven't really gone into is that if we try to delete a parent without deleting the children, you get an error. There's a way around that. I'm not really going to go into this tutorial, but I will just go ahead and delete these and then just show you how we can delete a parent. So that's how that works. That's the end of what is a fairly long tutorial, but this is actually some powerful functionality right here. You can build some pretty powerful apps using this structure, probably more so than even just using a table in PySimpleGUI. If you are if you're doing a school project or anything like that, this could actually just be a pretty useful basis for a school project. So that being said, if you found value in this video and you want to see more like it, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. You can find a link to the code in the description below. Have a nice day.